Melissa Mccarty. How are you?
Oh, very good. Thank you for calling in today, Melissa. I understand you have a powerful new book called News Girls Don't Cry. This is about yourself as being out in the news as a veteran newscaster and also about your growing up as a child, isn't it?
Yeah, so I've been a local newscaster working state to state, but mainly in Los Angeles, Southern California, for the past 13 years or more. I always knew that the story of my life needed to be told, but it took me 6 years to write it because obviously I'm a writer, so I spend 10 hours a day telling other people's stories.
Yes.
For a living. I was a news reporter, not feature, not entertainment, so I spent every day of my life, 10 hours a day, entrenched in sadness and tragedy. It's the tragedy of the day for another grieving family in some way or some injustice.
So your life was surrounded all by hardcore news. We're talking homicides, fires, anything that's tragedy. That's what you were dealing with.
My entire career, right. So I was drained emotionally, but I was also drained emotionally in my personal life. So the book is, I think, exciting, and it's because it's about family when it comes down to it. There's a lot of chaos, there's a lot of drama, but there's also messages of motivation, things that occurred in my personal life, in my professional life, and how to balance it and continue on a very difficult path of broadcast news when you have all these weights on your shoulders wanting you to fail. And I hope that there's so many young people out there, and young adults and teens, and even in their 30s, wherever you're at in life, if you feel lost, I think this is a good book for you, because I was lost for much of my life, but then look how I turned out. I was successful in a very difficult profession.
You weren't affected by that, really, weren't you? Because you had your own toughness inside because of the way you grew up and the neighborhood you grew up.
Yeah, it affected me, but I just didn't allow it. I didn't allow anyone to see it. So I related it to something similar of having a double life. Where I would walk into the newsroom and they would see this really poised anchor person or field reporter that's just really tough and gritty and blunt, but then, and a lot of people, I think, thought I was always very, maybe too driven, too aggressive. It's because I had to be just to keep my sanity. When I was 19 years old, I had already been to 2 funerals, friends who were murdered.
Wow. Oh.
And there was a stabbing at my 19th birthday party. That was a turning point in my life, and I thought, this is not normal.
You were making the news that you report then.
A lot of the headlines I covered later in life were similar things I've lived through, or I've seen, or I knew people that had occurred and happened to them. It was and of course you don't want to admit those things because your colleagues, especially in the news business, you're portrayed a certain way.
Right, but weren't you really better prepared in your profession to be able to handle a lot better because you understood the thinking in a lot of these people that you were going to cover?
Tons of reporters show up to big stories. Not all of them get the exclusive, get the person to open up their world and their heart and their grief. And I was that person so many times, and people would say, well, how did they talk to you? How did you get that out of them? Even in times where we were in gang territory covering a news story and we were threatened and told to leave the neighborhood, I was able to relate to them in a way to where we were safe and we were allowed to stay in their neighborhood, even though it was dominated by gangs, because I could relate to a lot of the things that I showed up to cover for the news, and I was compassionate and I knew how to approach them. I didn't look down on them. I didn't judge them. I didn't show up with a cold face.
Yes.
I truly was, I felt their pain, probably too much. Yeah. And that's why, I wanted to get out of the business after almost 15 years. And I was trying to date and have a relationship. I had nothing left. There was actually a relationship I talk about. I call him the athlete because I don't say his name for obvious reasons. But it was a relationship that I had where he came into my life, and I fell for this person so hard, and the outcome was he basically looked at me one day because it was a power struggle the entire courtship. And he basically said, you're the meanest girl I've ever met in my life.
Wow, that must.
And it was huge because I'm like, but you're the one. But he didn't know that because I didn't show him. I didn't know how to be vulnerable and be a girl.
You've made now a big change because now you're on Larry King's newest Aura TV.
So I'm the host of Newsbreaker, which is the company that Carlos Slim, who, come to find out, the richest man in the world, hello. He is such a sweetheart. And Larry King, one of my career idols, and I literally show up every work and hang out with Larry King. It was his birthday recently.
You're just hanging with the guy?
I'm just hanging, and I did this big joke for Newsbreaker, which is one of the shows on Aura. He has Larry King now. We have Newsbreaker and a bunch of other shows, and I put on his suspenders, and I stole his wardrobe. We did this funny little skit for his 80th birthday. The stuff that I do, I'm always in a studio. I'm not on crime scenes. I'm happy. It's some of the stuff, it's comical, it's skits, it's human interest, it's features. I'm soon going to be launching a new pilot show that's entertainment-based for Aura TV. So
it's going to be an Aura TV. It's going to be an entertainment show, you said?
It's going to be, right, we're working on a pilot, so hopefully it'll be greenlit soon, but it's it's actually a parody of entertainment shows that are on television.
Oh,
but,
good.
Kitty Couric just made headlines because Kitty Couric just left television for Yahoo. So it's the future.
Yes.
How many people watch local news? How many people still wait for the news to come on at 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock? They go to the internet.
Oh, very much. In fact, I found it back in '98 when I was doing some producing. I said, look, this is going to happen, and that's why I was working on Chicago 3 Media. And it took me a lot of years to get it to go. The hardest part was getting it to stream. There wasn't a lot of people who understood that. So I'm so glad to see things like Aura TV, Yahoo. Everybody's involved in this thing, and it's wonderful. And Aura TV, I was checking into it. I see Jesse Ventura. You have him coming up. So I signed up on Aura TV to keep me updated what the latest is at Aura TV.
I just never thought in a million years I would go from local news to sharing a studio with Larry King. The main thing, Bill, is being a local newscaster.
Yes.
I thought my voice would be instrumental and helpful in the community. I thought I would have a voice. And you do some days, but mostly you realize, even though you speak into a mic every day, your voice isn't heard. It's not that loud. And so that's why I took it to the next step of this book, because it has messages for so many different families dealing with mental illnesses, addiction, overcoming obstacles, bullies. I mean, I cover everything. I'm making a speech next week to the journalism students of tomorrow. This is a book for them because it's the truth, and it's the pros and the cons of our business.
I hope they pay attention to you, Melissa, because I remember my father telling me one time when I was young, we grew up in North Hollywood, and he worked out on Sunset and Vine, and it was how a news reporter will go up and somebody's family's just been murdered, and they'll get, like, the mother or the father say, how do you feel? How do you feel? It's the most ridiculous question you can ask. I wish you all the best success on your book, News Girls Don't Cry, available January 1st, 2014, Bettie Youngs Books. And people can follow you on Twitter at Melissa Mccarty, McCarty1. And for the website, newsgirlsdon'tcry.com. Terrific talking.
And you were very refreshing, pleasure, and it was an honor to speak to you as well. You sound like an amazing person. And Chicago is awesome of a place.
Oh, thank you very much, Melissa. You have a wonderful day and continued success with the book.
Thanks so much. You too. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.